Hello, and welcome to another exploratory episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts. I have lost over 120 pounds and kept it off for over 6 years.
Whoa.
I'm a Tiny Habits certified coach. That's going to come in handy during this episode. I'm a Thrive Global certified coach.
Yeah.
And with me today is...
Donald Weigel, and I have lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off for about 6.5 years, and I have read the book Tiny Habits, and so that will also come in handy.
It will. This is foreshadowing.
Yeah. No, we're being very shadowy as we foreshadow.
Well, I know we talk a lot. I open every episode talking about how I am a Tiny Habit certified coach. And I feel like we're really going to, that's really going to tie into what we're talking about today, because it's not just, hey, I lost weight. It's random. It just happened magically.
Yeah, which is what we usually say.
It's magically.
Yeah, it just randomly happened. It was magical. And we've done 340 some episodes where we've said that. Yeah.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about myself being a closet Karen, letting one of our neighbors do the dirty work of complaining about things so that I didn't have to.
I like how you think it's closet, Karen. I like how you think that.
Okay,
yeah.
But we actually have a listener, Karen,
yeah.
in the Midwest, who over the years said hello, whatever. She sent me a message and was like, hey man, maybe stop calling out Karens. But she, like me, spells her name with a C, which is not the kind of attack that I am making.
Yeah.
I'm attacking the K Karens, not the C Karens.
Oh.
And the K
Karens
Catherines
with a K, we're not attacking you either.
And the Catherines with a K.
Oh,
those
no.
are the nemesis that we are attacking.
You've
so
just
said,
alienated so many listeners.
Even occur to me that Karen, Midwest Karen, was the Karen I was talking about. So we're going to have to come up with maybe a new name that nobody likes, like Mernard.
Yeah.
Is that a name?
Well, you said this was an exploratory episode, and the first thing I thought of was Vasco da Gama.
Is he an explorer?
Yeah. And he explored a lot of South America. And anyway, I realized no one's really called Vasco anymore.
Vasco?
Yeah, so I feel like we could alienate the Vascos.
The Vascos.
Be fine, because there's so few of them.
We could do that. I'm not sure how many we have. But the one thing Karen said was, hey, I've lost a lot of weight. And I, in honesty, in earnest, which I know is hard for me, I actually said, oh, wow. So how did you do it? And you know what that Weisenheimer said?
No.
Magic. And then she doubled down with more magic, like good wishes and thoughts. So I'm actually, Karen, if you would like to tell me what you actually did, I would like to know in real world, because Weisenheimery is something that I do. I didn't know that other people did it. So if you would like to tell me.
Yes, you invented Weisenheimering. You have cornered the market on it.
No, but I really wanted to know what she did, because we've been chatting for a number of years about weight loss goals. So I'm very proud of her, but I would like to actually know, unless it's her secret sauce, which she is never going to tell anyone, which is also fine. Fine, be that way, Karen.
So are you saying you said, tell me what you did, what you really, really did?
What you really, really did. That is a very good point, which ties us back to last week.
I'm trying to get us there, yep.
Thank you. So last week, we invoked, summoned, conjured three different sets of spirits. The spirit of BJ Fogg and his book Tiny Habits. We invoked the Spice Girls coming out of retirement, and the Backstreet Men. So the Spice Girls...
Backstreet Men. But real little known fact, speaking of names, his real name is Bishop Jasper Fogg. No, I made that up.
Oh my goodness. I was thinking that we were going to move ahead, and you foiled that. Okay.
So, Spice Girls, Backstreet Boys, Bishop Jasper Fogg, and his Tiny Habits.
I can never tell him that we have a podcast because of all of the shenanigans.
Yeah.
Okay, the Backstreet Boys and the Spice Girls, speaking of being serious, we used the Spice Girls to ask the question, searching for that aspiration. Tell us what you want, what you really, really want. That ties into BJ Fogg and really having clarity on your aspirations, what you say you want. Then our good friends, the Backstreet Boys, came in with the deeper questions. Tell me why, tell me how, what is the reason behind the reason that you say you have the aspiration.
Yeah.
And they helped us really get clarity on what we want. So again, it wasn't that I needed to figure out how to go to the gym every day. It was in the end, after all the why, how, we got to, I want to be an active person and find ways in my daily life to get an activity. The next question was, what was my total daily energy expenditure? That sounds super mathy. In the end, it turned out we didn't need accuracy on our calorie calculator. What we needed was more accurate tracking, not skipping weekends. So those were bigger questions. The final one was, and this is something that we're going to focus on today, the final question, or the aspiration was, I want to lose 25 pounds. But when we really got down to it, what we actually had an aspiration for was greater clarity on our goals, our calorie consumption, and getting in activity in our day. So the 25 pounds is a byproduct of our true aspiration, which was having more clarity on our goals.
Yeah. And, BJ Fogg, speaking BJ Fogg, has steps in behavior change. And so the first one was to clarify your aspiration. The second one that we are going to focus on today is to explore behavior options, to ask yourself, what can you do? And the idea there is to ask yourself, what new habits would you create? What circumstances could you change? What habits would you stop? And what one-time behaviors could you add?
And I know it is super boring and maybe overwhelming to keep asking yourself all of these questions. You're just like, I just want a quick fix. Just give me the thing. Guess what? That didn't work for us.
Yeah,
for
we
30
looked,
years.
We looked for a quick fix for, really, yeah, I guess 30 years. I don't count the first 10 years of my life, I suppose, but yeah.
Right. And part of that, like, mindfulness and growth mindset is being willing to explore your circumstances. Where are you getting in your own way? And what realistically in your actual life could you consider changing? It is very nice to go to someone else and just say, fix all of my problems. But we're going to ask you to do some introspection in this episode. And we're going to use, again, the steps for behavior design. Like Donald said, last week was clarify the aspiration. This time we're looking at exploring behavior options and then matching them with specific behaviors. Like, sure, we know we want to be healthier. Sure, we know we want to, to drill down on our calories. Now we're going to actually look into different ways that we can get that done. And the thing that BJ Fogg, I can't remember what his name is. You know him much better than I, Donald.
Bishop Jasper Fogg.
Bishop Jasper Fogg.
Yes.
What he suggests we do is a brainstorming session. Brainstorm. Doesn't it sound like, that's not like, if you break it apart, that sounds pretty intense, right?
Yeah, no, a storm in your brain doesn't sound great. And it also, like, I immediately then think of barnstorming. And then I always, like, even as a kid and even now, I don't understand why we're storming so many barns.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point? Like, what happens in a barn? Why are we storming it so often? Why are there only two kinds of storming? There seems to be brainstorming and barnstorming.
Weather storming?
Yeah,
have you ever thought about weather storming?
Okay, but we as
Storm
humans,
storming?
like, the things that we storm brains and we storm barns. Like, why are those the only two things that we storm? And why are we storming barns in the first place?
So those are great questions for later on, after the episode.
Yeah.
But I think, Donald, you bring up a very good point, because storms are chaotic. They cause damage. Maybe they're a little bit upsetting. And sometimes taking that extra effort and energy to really think about our problems and potential solutions, all of that takes effort. And it's like, can't I just do nothing? Well, sure. But That is also an option in brainstorming, is
Sure.
to do absolutely nothing. But it's going to be effortful, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable to kind of uncover all of these issues that you have. But then we're also going to focus on some positive things that we can add to our lives. So we're putting the keys to your success in your hands. It takes effort, but I promise it is worth it.
Yes, and Mr. BJ Fogg uses a tool for brainstorming called
the swarm of behaviors. And again, this is a brainstorming method you can use to help explore potential behavior options. Now, this is that word potential is really important, because a lot of times we feel like we have to do the clean slate, change every single thing about our lives. But this is just sort of an exercise to really lay out on the table all of the different, it's almost like looking at your budget. Where's all my money going? Where are all my habits going? Where is my time going? So it's just to look at everything in front of you and then select things that you could get yourself to actually do. Not everything, but just kind of select what potential solutions there are. So there are two options for this brainstorming part. The hard part, the stormy part, the kind of chaotic part, is troubleshooting difficulties, setbacks, maybe some friction points against your habits. So that's the kind of the hard one. We're going to get that one out of the way first. But then after the storm, the brainstorm, comes the sun. You can't have sun without you can't have rainbow without rain. That was it. Okay.
Sure.
So Donald is going to focus on the rainbow kind of solutions. What can you add to your life? What can you look forward to in the second part of this? So these are, again, two different methods for the swarm of behavior. If you would like the worksheet for the swarm of behaviors, there are two different worksheets. There is the troubleshooting worksheet, and then there is the solutions worksheet. If you would like copies of those, send us an email at weonlylookThin@gmail.com, and I can send one over to you. Put in the header of your email, put the word swarm.
Yes.
Swarm.
And this is one of the few times in your life that that a swarm is going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you don't want a swarm. You don't want a swarm of locusts. You don't want a swarm of bees. You don't want the FBI to swarm your compound that you're in.
The compound that you have.
Right. Yeah. Like
your
generally,
growth mindset compound.
If you're on the business end of a swarm, usually that is a bad thing. But in this case, it is a good thing helping you move forward.
Right, but BJ Fogg calls it a swarm of behaviors because they're buzzing around, all the behaviors are buzzing.
Like a swarm of bees, but behaviors. Yeah, I get
exactly.
it.
Okay, so I am going to start, and if you want to play along at home, a swarm of behaviors, it's basically just a brainstorming list. You can make a list, you can use sort of the storm analogy, make a little cloud in there, that's the middle of the storm, and then just sort of shoot, mind map. You can look it all up on the internet. It's all on the internet. So again, I am going to start with troubleshooting. This is looking at what the friction points, hard spots, like difficulties, things that are getting in the way of the thing that I say I want.
Yeah, what in your life is making it hard to achieve your aspiration? As Catherine just said, what is getting in the way? As Catherine said earlier, when you're doing this, the idea isn't to come up with the absolute hardest, biggest things, but just throw every idea that you can think of out there. Think of any habit that might actually help and throw it out there. You've heard people say okay, no idea is too crazy. Just put them all down, and we're not going to do them all, but we want to put them out on the table to figure out what we can get ourselves to do.
So this takes a little bit of soul searching. This can be actual habits that you have that are getting in the way. This can be thoughts that are getting in the way, behaviors, routines, other people that you think are getting in the way. Just throw it all out there. This is sort of what do they call it? The bash book or the Crush book or whatever. Wasn't there some high school thing?
I kind of know what you're talking about.
Smash book.
Oh, Smash book? Yeah, that's. I feel like that. I missed that whole thing. I don't know what that is.
So this is a place to really unpack all of the thoughts, behaviors, and habits that are getting in the way of what you say you want, what you say your aspiration is. So on the last episode, again, the Spice Girls helped us figure out that, sure, we want to lose 25 pounds, but what we really want is to get in control of our eating habits. So the question becomes, sort of at the center of the storm, is what is getting in the way of your eating habits? Like what bad behaviors, unhelpful behaviors, habits, routines are getting in the way?
Oh, it turns out a Smash book, I just looked it up, is a journal in which you can write, draw, paint, or paste memorabilia and other embellishments. I kind of always thought
that sounds like a nice thing.
It does. I always kind of thought a Smash book had something to do with like either you were like it was about your crushes, like people you wanted to smash.
I don't know. I wasn't.
Or I thought it was like a bad thing. Like I don't know.
I don't know.
That was never really in my.
I wasn't in the middle of all the high school stuff, but I feel like there was like a Cheers and Jeers book somewhere of like. You tell the dirt, I don't know, whatever. I wasn't really in the middle of high school. I wasn't in the cool kid club. I was just looking stern and listening to grunge. So, okay. So we're going back to troubleshooting. So the at the center of the storm, the sort of the headline is my eating is out of control. Right. So that's kind of the big problem. So now it's okay. Well, give me some examples. Like,
yeah, why is your eating out of control? What is causing your eating to be out of control?
Right. So big things, little things, thoughts, whatever. So again, and I've come up with this list. So I'm just going to run through them. There are 10 or so different things that are getting in the way. So the first is a mindset one. That start tomorrow loophole. We've talked about it. It's like, well, today doesn't matter. I'll just start tomorrow. Another more practical thing is, you know what? I'm going back for seconds on dessert. Maybe I'm drinking alcohol more frequently. Maybe I've fallen out of that. I only drink on weekends. Maybe now it's the middle of the week. We just had 4th of July. That's a good day Thursdays are a good day to drink.
Yeah. And like not only, just not to harp on one particular example, but not only is the alcohol full of calories itself, but then my inhibition's lower. And so it makes me want to snack and eat more.
Right. So maybe you have no clear calorie target. There's emotional eating, not closing the kitchen at 8 o'clock. It's really too hot to meal prep. That's a big problem. Maybe your spouse, my spouse cooks all the time. My kids make brownies, like all these different things. I'm not eating enough veggies. I don't have a routine. I'm not pre-tracking. Just throw it all out there. You can, again, there are things that are maybe outside of your control, like your teen making brownies every day, or your spouse cooking, or you've got indulgences that you're taking in at work. Maybe, people are bringing in like barbecue things. I was going to say barbecued brownies, but that's not a thing. So
maybe it should be.
Just throw it all out there. Big things, little things, occasional things, daily things. Put it all out there, okay? And once you've done that, and you've got this kind of shotgun of all these different bullet holes of things that are getting in the way, it can seem kind of overwhelming, right? Just slow down. This isn't about fixing them all. This isn't about saying you're a trash person. This is just an observation of these are all the things that are either circumstances, routines, habits that are just getting in the way of what I say that I want. And we can observe them kind of, unemotionally and go oh, no wonder this is hard for me. Look at all of these distractions in my way. And there are, again, very small things and then big things that might be getting in your way. There are a few things, like I said, that, my spouse cooks for me or my kids are making brownies. Why are you gaining weight? Or why are you out of control? Well, because my boss likes bringing in cookies.
Right.
That's a boss problem, but it's also a relationship with food problem. You haven't set clear boundaries there. So there are lots of different things going on. But the first thing to do is maybe look at the full list and then circle the few that are causing the most amount of damage. So really look at it. And this is a personal exploration. This isn't prescriptive. This isn't, well, I'm looking at it and this is what your real problem is.
Yeah. Something that might be causing you the most difficulty might not be something that's causing the most difficulty for somebody else. So you might look at this and you might be like, I'm just not eating any vegetables. That is one of the biggest issues for me. But for somebody else, it might be that they're emotional eating, or it might be that they don't have a clear plan for a calorie target. Like, these things will be different for each person, and you have to decide which ones are going to really move the needle the most.
Right. So it is not objective, it's subjective. What for you is causing the most damage? Is pre-tracking the biggest stumbling block? No, I'm probably going to say that not having a clear calorie target is a lot more of an issue, or causes more friction, more pain than just it's too hot to meal prep. I didn't gain 150 pounds because I didn't meal prep. That wasn't the problem. What I had was a calorie problem, not a pre-tracking problem. So for you, finding what is true really matters. So, and we're not saying, and BJ Fogg does not say this, he doesn't say that you have to attack everything. He doesn't say that you have to attack the biggest thing, but just getting a clear picture is a great place to start. Once you've established the big items, the big stumbling blocks, is kind of look at those and say, what am I ready to address? Not maybe the perfect one, but what is something that you're wow, I've looked at my aspiration. I've clarified what I really want. I want, it's not that I just want to lose 25 pounds. I want to get a handle on my calorie count. We've done the swarm of behaviors.
Or separately look at the list and look, just mark all of the ones, or figure out all of the ones that you would be willing to do right now. It doesn't even have to be just the big ones, but figure out separately which of these, things that you've written down would you be willing to address right now. And then you might be lucky enough to have some overlap. There might be ones that are really going to move the needle and you're willing to address them right now. And if you are lucky enough for that, then pick one of those to focus on. If you're not lucky enough to have some overlap, at least pick something that you're willing to get yourself to do right now that's on the list, and focus on that. And then maybe you can build up later to one of the bigger ones that are going to move the needle.
Right. So for example, if you're looking at this and one of your daily habits is going back for additional desserts, or nighttime snacking, or eating right out of the bag, of a big family-sized bag, maybe it's gosh, I really didn't realize how many different snacking behaviors I had that were getting in the way.
Right.
Those are things that I'm ready to address right now. Those are kind of the low-hanging fruit, which replace fruit with a dessert. Will make you happy. But looking at it and going, oh, I didn't really realize, oh, well, the chips aren't a big deal. Oh, well, the snacking isn't a big deal. But when you see them all together, you see that they make this giant Voltron of a problem for you. So what is something small that you could get yourself to change? And for me, I've been doing this long enough, and, have some serious goals. Really getting back down to what I say I want is control over my food. I want to lose 25 pounds. Calories are kind of the key in there. So the thing that I would personally be ready to change, again, not you, but me, would be I need a clear plan and target calorie. I need day-to-day tactical strategies to get my calories under control.
Yeah.
Pre-tracking isn't my problem. It being hot isn't my problem. My problem is the volume of calories that I'm getting. And that is something personally that I am ready to address. If you are not there, again, go to those oh, yeah, I don't have to go back for seconds. I can stop eating off of my kid's plate. I can close the kitchen at a certain time. But only you know what will be right for you. And that takes some effort.
Yeah. And so then focus on that item, and the idea here is once you have done some significant troubleshooting on that, then, and you've felt some success, you've had some celebration, you may then feel like you can add something else to it, and then you should. So you can pick another one on your list to add. And, maybe your big problems aren't that it's too hot or that you're not pre-tracking, but eventually you're adding that and you're adding the next thing and the next thing. And before you know it, you've added a lot of behaviors, and it's caused this, snowball effect of behaviors that eventually causes an avalanche.
Well, and I think as part of this in the big, big, big picture, get in the practice of asking yourself questions and observing your behaviors and owning them. That is the big clarity here of like, I don't know why I'm up on the scale. I don't know why I can't get myself to exercise. Like once you actually are like really paying attention, going why, how, what, like tell me more. Ooh, tell me more. See, more songs are getting in the way.
That's right.
Like once you start, it's not a mystery. It's not my thyroid. It's not my age. It's not perimenopause. There are day-to-day behaviors that I could control and take responsibility for. So that is the troubleshooting. Now the storm is passing. The heavy stuff is over. Now Donald is going to take us into the rainbow of possibilities for part 2.
Yeah, but before I do that, speaking of songs, whenever I think of Swarm of Behaviors, for some reason, the first thing that pops into my head is the Temptations song, Ball of Confusion, that Love and Rockets also covered. And I always think like Swarm of Behaviors. That's what the world is today. Hey. So it's like every single time I hear Swarm of Behaviors, I think of
and
that
who was
song.
the first band? The Temptations?
The Temptations, I think.
Temptations.
Yeah.
Which are...
They may not have been the first one, but they had a hit with that song.
I did not know that it was anything other than...
And then Love and Rockets covered it, yeah.
Wow.
In the
and I bet
90s,
one of those new kids
Late
are going to
80s?
take it over now, like the Olivia Rodrigos, your Dua Lipas. They're going to just... And then kids are going to be like, our music is cool and yours isn't.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
so,
exactly what they'll be. All right, so option 2. So... after, one thing you can do is troubleshoot behaviors, like we said. Another thing you can do is to add helpful behaviors to your life to help you achieve your goal. What would make it easier for you to lose 25 pounds? And so, again, throw everything out there. These may not all be practical things. They might not be things that you can get yourself to do, but try and throw it all out there. So, Catherine made a list, things like limit your evening sweets to 1 time a week. Cut your evening sweets out altogether. Swap your evening sweets for something else. Make salads in the morning before it gets too hot. Define clear calorie targets and make a plan to achieve them. Make a policy that you're only going to have alcohol 1 time a week. Reduce your weekday calories to save room for weekend calories. Plan your week on Sundays using your dashboard. Pre-track / budget your calories daily. So you're entering your calories in the morning before you even eat them. Maybe that will help. Make a policy about no cupboard snacks in the daytime. Or maybe you buy more ready to eat, high volume fruits and veggies. And again, then look at this list and think, which of these things are going to move the needle the most? Which of them are going to help me the most achieve my goal? And mark those. Then look at it again and say to yourself, which of these things could I actually get myself to do right now? And if you're lucky enough to have some overlap, then you can put that into action. Like maybe you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm drinking alcohol 3 times a week. There's so many calories, and then it causes me to want to snack more. Limiting alcohol to 1 time a week, I can do that. I can start there, see how that works for me. And then maybe after you've successfully implemented that, you move on to reducing your weekday calories to save room for weekend calories and see how that works for you. Or, you pre-track daily, or you make a policy about the no cupboard snacks, et cetera, et cetera. But the one for me that stands out on here would be to define clear calorie targets and make a plan to achieve them. Now that's a big, huge
that's a
behavior.
direct hit.
So maybe you need to break that down into even smaller habits to make that happen. But ultimately, that is probably where you're going to want to end up to achieve your 25-pound weight loss.
Right. And, initially we had talked about that final aspiration. If you want to lose 25 pounds, there are specific measurable things that you can do to do that, which again, for me is maintaining a calorie deficit. There are ancillary kind of, in the background supporting actors, or acting habits that can help support that, like reducing the number of sweets, reducing the alcohol. But and I think that one of the problems is we all know that person who just stopped drinking soda.
I know.
And did nothing else in their life. And then they've lost 30 pounds.
Yeah,
right?
I knew a guy who literally was like he lost a bunch of weight and he was like, oh, well, instead of eating 2 Big Macs a day, I cut it down to 1 Big Mac a day. And the weight just melted right off of me. I was like, oh, okay. That's not my jam.
There are those people, those outliers who change one thing without paying big attention to anything else, who can make it happen. And that's great. But those aren't the majority of people. People with lifelong weight struggles often have to put in a little bit more effort. So once you're ready to put in that more effort, sure, cut out the soda and replace it with diet. See how that goes. But the more specific, if you want to, for example, if you want to save $10,000, I'll just try not to spend as much.
Right.
That isn't a really clear goal. If you want to save $10,000 by the end of the year, that means you have to save, $2,000 a month, which means a reduction in your spending by X. Those are very specific and measurable. So start where you are with what you have. And I hope I'm not going too far afield, but it's sort of like, if you say you want X, what are you willing to do to get there?
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point that we didn't talk about in terms of this episode, but I think it is oftentimes very helpful when you are talking about weight loss and fitness behaviors. I think people can get very lost in the weeds, don't understand what to focus on. But if you kind of try and translate that to money, it becomes much more obvious, oh, okay, if money equals calories, oh, I can't spend as much money. I need to budget my money. I need to budget my calories. I can't spend as many calories, or I can't eat as many calories. If you take the same habits and translate them from calories to money and back again, it can make it much easier to actually figure out specific behaviors.
Well, and I speaking of which, when I gave this presentation in WOLT Place, We Only Look Thin Place, our Facebook-based accountability group, and I actually mentioned there are times when, for example, if we want to save money, or, we're saving up for something, and the easiest, smallest thing I can do, which is kind of funny, is cancel Sirius XM radio, which is $6 a month.
Right.
How did you afford that trip to Disney World?
I cut $6 a month.
You know what? No, thank you, Sirius XM. We actually got an envelope from them yesterday that was urgent, open immediately. And it was please come back. We'll only charge you $5.
I thought it was a bank bill or something due, and it was just Sirius trying to get us to come back.
But if I stop there, if I'm I want to go to Disney World, you know what? My big plan is to cut out Sirius XM. And then I'm shocked that I can't afford to go to Disney World in December. Was Sirius XM enough of a change in my behaviors and habits and spending?
Right, but
no,
the flip
it's
side
a starter
of that,
set.
But the flip side of that is you cut that $6, and then you cut another $6 and another $6 and another $6, and then eventually you're talking about real money.
Right.
And so the sort of mistake people make is they go, oh, well, cutting that $6 isn't going to do anything. Or they say cutting that 50 calories isn't going to do anything. But, they're not thinking about the fact that, well, I cut 50 and then I cut 25 more and then I cut another 30. And then before I know it, I'm really in business. I've really done something that's going to help me to lose the weight.
Right. So a starter step is something small, and we can build on that once we've gained that confidence of, gosh, I've really cut down my alcohol. I've really cut down my snacking. What's the next step you're ready to level up to until you hit that big goal? And once you actually see that you can make progress, that there are specific things in your life that you can change, modify, and level up on, you have the power to get this done. It is not abstract. It's not just what randos on the internet, rando podcasters say. It's not just, I've got a Weight Watcher problem. I've got a meal prep problem. I am looking at my actual life. I am clarifying what I really want. I am looking at behaviors that I currently have that are getting in the way of the very thing I say I want. I'm making proactive personal decisions about my real life circumstances that I am taking action on. I am looking at new ways to come up with solutions. And if I can't come up with my own solutions, ask other people, how did you make it work? How did you end up saving for Disney World?
Right.
How did you lose weight? How did you work in working out while you've got kids? How do you work in meal prep? Exploring that and asking other people. Sometimes we can't come up with solutions on our own. Maybe we're in a point where we don't really have enough perspective. We're not as introspective. Looking to see what other people have done and using them as examples can really help go oh, I never thought about that. Wow, they're making it work. I bet I can do that too. And having a growth mindset and taking that time to explore your own mindset, behaviors, and habits all of this leads to taking responsibility for your own health and being able to troubleshoot and problem solve not just these issues, but other issues outside of your health. It's all connected, man.
Yeah, man.
Man. So finally, as we're sort of, finishing this up, we have, and this isn't, this is just sort of the starter step in all of this. The behavior plan that BJ Fogg has a number of more steps, but right now we're just setting the stage, right? We can ask ourselves questions again as we're going through this process. Are the behaviors effective in meeting the goals and aspirations that we have? Are the behaviors and habits things that we would consider doing? Are they realistic? Do we have the physical, financial, and emotional ability to make these changes? And then really kind of the next step in this, and we're gonna sort of stop here, is what kind of support, tools, systems, and resources would help support this aspiration. Just because we have a goal doesn't mean there's another step beyond this of how am I going to put this into practice every day? How am I going to fit it into my life? So that's a question for another podcast. But once we've got this clarity of purpose, we've got this focus, we actually have some marching orders. We've got clarity on what we want, that end of the rainbow. We see what we want and we know the practical things that we can do to get there. And I know it has been really big for me to take responsibility for my habits and not just say hey, what should I work out as? What recipes do I have? Right. I don't have a recipe problem. I don't have my husband cooks problem. I don't have my boss brings in bagel problem. I have the opportunity to decide how I want to approach my challenges and what actions I am ready to take. And that is where the power comes from. And there's a lot of celebration we can do in knowing that the power is within us.
Wow. The power was inside you all along.
All along.
Thank you so much for listening. I would just like to point out that we are not just rando podcasters on the internet. Everyone else is. All those other podcasters are, but we are definitely not. If you enjoyed this episode, there are a whole lot more of them available out there wherever you find podcasts. We are on all the major podcast platforms. The most recent 300 episodes is what podcast platforms will keep for you. So if you'd like to go back to the beginning, you can find those on YouTube. Finally got those up there and going. Or you can find them on our website at any time at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at weonlylookthin.com, you can click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about WOLT Place. We Only Look Thin Place is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. These are the kinds of issues that we tackle in WOLT Place, really being introspective, doing the work to come up with solutions to the problems that we have. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a place for accountability, reflection, asking questions, seeing what's worked for other people. I do weekly Zoom meetings. I'm doing one this afternoon, where we can really work together on our goals. Even if we have different aspirations, we have different mindsets, we have different habits that we're working on, ultimately, our mindset is we're all focused in the same direction. So we have 2 subscription options, a monthly subscription with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if WOLT Place is right for you. So check us out.
Yes, please check it out. And you can also check us out on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook at We Only Look Thin. Or you could send us an email if you prefer. Our email address is weonlylookthin@gmail.com. We would appreciate episode suggestions. We will do our best to answer your questions. If you just like to reach out and say hi, give us a compliment, we also like to hear from you in that way as well, to weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep. And if you have a couple of extra minutes, please head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review. It means so much to see those numbers of stars that we're getting go up, and also getting new reviews from listeners makes all the difference. It lets us know that what we're doing week after week, year after year, is still making a difference in your life. So please don't think like, hey, why should I even bother? Everybody else is doing it. This is the day where you go and you get it done because you like supporting us and we like that. So thank you in advance.
Yes, we do. And we also like it if you tell somebody about the show. Word of mouth really helps us out. If you give a recommendation to somebody, it really does help the show grow, whether you're in person or you're on the internet in a group like a Reddit group or a Facebook group or a Discord server, something like that. When you give us a shout out, it really does help the show grow.
It sure does.
So if you've been angry the entire show because your name is Vasco or Karen with a K or Bishop or Jasper, please just try and remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration. The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.